Hi everybody, this is going to be an update video to the Quantel Paintbox restoration project, as a few things have happened since my last update video. The first thing that I want to mention is we have now the original Quantel keyboard, the rat, and a number of cables that I left behind when I collected the Paintbox from Stephen. These, thankfully, Stephen posted to me. This is the original DPB-7001 keyboard. You can see there, so it's really nice to have that. Obviously quite a rare piece. We have the Quantel rat. It's called a rat, yeah, it's not a mouse because it isn't a mouse. It's just a static thing that you just use like that. So you've got a sort of joysticky kind of thing and 4 buttons on it. It doesn't actually track any movement. And we have a few cables as well that were missed out of all the bits that I collected. So it's really good that we've got those. What is going to happen with the DPB-7001? Over winter I'm going to look at bringing it back home. Now, because it has been through a number of hands, it's been messed with, taken apart, attempted repairs. I've been looking at it as well. It means that it's not in the greatest condition. It's pretty much falling apart. There's lots of screws missing. It's a bit grubby. So I'm going to spend a bit of time taking it apart to some degree, cleaning it up and reassembling it. So I will be replacing any missing screws, bolts, nuts, etc., and getting it into a presentable state. So that's what's going to happen over winter. I don't think I'm going to attempt any way to make it run at this stage. I think that would be a bit of a long shot, to be honest. It's quite a complex system, and the biggest problem is the hard disk that is with it. That SMD interface hard disk, that is pretty much required to make it work, and without a working SMD hard disk I'm really not going to be able to get it into an operational state. Although the software is all installed on EEPROMs, which is great because it means it just turns on and everything's there. There's no, you don't have to worry about booting off disks or anything. There are a number of files that the system needs to run which are only installed on the hard disk. I think these are things like the basic font and some default brushes, which are probably too large to fit into EEPROMs, so those were installed onto the hard disk. So without that working hard disk, I'm pretty much scuppered on that, so I'm not going to go any further in trying to actually get the Paintbox running. I just want to restore it into a nice presentation piece, and I might look at passing this on or loaning it to a museum for display. Now, one of the other channels that I watch on YouTube is a channel called AintBigAintClever. Some of you, I'm sure, are subscribed to his channel as well. Interestingly, he had an interesting computer that he featured on his channel a short while ago. It was about a month ago. It's called a Gemini GM925, and it's basically a machine that allows you to swap and interchange floppy disk formats, back up floppy disks and convert them into different formats. This sparked my interest because I've been trying to read these Quantel discs. So I contacted Martin, who very kindly tried to read one of the Quantel font discs, and unfortunately that GM925 can't read these either. So again, I think the problem is really down to the sectoring information. It's just appears to be so utterly unique that nothing is able to read it. Either that or the floppy disks are actually blank, but I doubt that somehow. So unfortunately that didn't prove fruitful at all. There has been some other developments on the floppy disks though. On my last video I mentioned that we had some floppy disks from other systems. It looks like I found some more again. The ones that I featured on my last update were for the phone system, potentially, but I have also found these discs as well. Now, these have EastEnders written on them, as you can see there. So episode 615, 616, interesting, it has pages 10 to 27 and stuff. Now, it turns out that these floppy disks aren't for the Paintbox either. When I started looking at these, I actually realised that these discs are actually hard sectors, which means these are not compatible with the floppy drive that I have attached to the Quantel Paintbox. As you can see, the small hole in there, these are hard sectors, so instead of one per revolution, there is one per sector. So it means you need a floppy disk which can read hard sectors, which the Quantel Paintbox cannot. So these are definitely not from the Quantel Paintbox. So what are they from, and why have they got EastEnders written on them? Well, there's a few little clues here. The fact that it's got episodes 627, 628, so there's obviously something on here which doesn't take up a lot of space, because we've got 4 episodes, and this is a double density disc, so there's only going to be a few hundred K on that. Probably text, at a guess. The other clues are these discs as well, which are for, I believe, for the same system, because they are all the same physical discs. They are double density, 32 hard sectors. Now, interestingly, this one says Aston font disc. So it's obviously something to do with text and fonts. Got another one just there, so we've got some fonts on there, Helvetica, and we've got some fonts there as well. So a bit of googling around, I managed to find that there is a system called the Aston character generator. Now, this big behemoth of a device which produces on-screen text. So I'm pretty certain that these are for the Aston character generator, and they just happen to have got mixed in with the Paintbox disc. So unfortunately, it does mean that we're not going to see any Quantel Paintbox use for EastEnders. I must admit, when I first saw that, I thought, why would you need a Quantel Paintbox doing graphics in EastEnders? So that's probably why these are just text. Now, exactly what is actually on these, I'm not 100% sure. Given that it has pages like here we have pages 1 to 18, 19 to 36, 40 to 57. There's a fair bit of text, surely. You're not just going to have a few words on each page. So my first thought was maybe they're titles, the end credits, but I don't see why you'd need that many pages. So my second thought was, well, maybe it's the auto cue. Maybe they used the Aston character generator to create the auto cues for the script. Possible? I don't know. So anyway, so that aside, another option that has come to light about reading the Quantel discs is a product called the SuperCard Pro. This is made by CBM Stuff. It's a small microcontroller based device which allows you to make images of floppy disks. Now, the good thing about this, it can actually output the direct raw format off the floppy disk. So the data comes off in an MFM format with no sectoring information or anything like that. So that is pretty much ideal for what we need to be able to read these disks. At least we can get the data off the disks onto my PC, so we can actually have a look and try and figure out what the format might be, and then from there maybe we'll be able to decode some of the images. Now, the problem is that it costs $100. I haven't really got around to justifying spending that money just yet, for the sake of looking at a few old images. But if people are interested in seeing what might be on these discs, then let me know. So I'm a bit in two minds whether, the amount of discs now that are actually for the Quantel Paintbox is actually quite small. There's actually only a small handful of all the discs in those boxes, which related direct to the Paintbox. We have all the fonts, but they're not particularly interesting. They're just fonts. So it doesn't actually leave us with many discs to look at once we've taken out all these EastEnders discs, which aren't Paintbox, and the phone system discs, which aren't Paintbox. It might not leave us with much. If you guys have any thoughts on this, then please leave those in the comments. Right, I'll leave it there. I will do another update video probably in a month or two time, just to let you know what has been going on, keep you all up to date. Okay, thanks for watching everyone. I'll see you on the next one.